How can you, as an individual activist, use the internet to promote the causes and candidates you care about? That's what I want to talk about with you today. We're going to cover 3 topics: how you can build an online strategy, what tools you can use, and how you can avoid common mistakes. But before we start with that, let's talk briefly about the strategic use of the internet for political activism. There are 2 important points. First, the internet hasn't changed the rules of political activism, or, dare I say it, community organizing. New technology has made it easier, faster, and cheaper to accomplish political goals, but it hasn't changed what those goals are. Second, the secret to using online tools to your advantage is to think of it as targeted communication, not mass communication. If you use online tools to deliver one message to an ever larger pool of people, you're not using it wisely. But if you use online tools to deliver segmented, personalized messages to segmented, separate groups of supporters, then you're in business. So with those points in mind, let's talk about building your online strategy. I like to present it as a series of questions. Question 1, what is your very, very specific goal? The best way to solve a problem is to break it down into a series of very small problems and start fixing those one by one. So your goal to end government-mandated healthcare? A good goal, but a big problem, almost too big. Break it down to specific bills, committees, and elected officials. If you have to, break it down into a multi-year plan. Question 2, what decision makers do you need to reach? Make a list of them, and again, make it specific. Which elected officials from which districts? Which professional staff on which committees? Which bureaucrats and which agencies? Question 3, who are your natural allies? Make a list of individuals and organizations that either share your principles or will benefit from the better world you're certain to be creating. Get creative. Make a list of everyone who could have a dog in this fight and think about how you'll craft a message for them specifically. Remember, that's the key of the internet, benefiting from targeted messages. Question 4, how can you and your allies apply maximum pressure to the decision makers? Nothing moves in politics unless it's pushed. Nothing pushes a politician more than fear of being punished in the polls, and nothing empowers citizens to speak their minds and share their stories more than online media, blogs, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And that's a good introduction to our second topic. What online tools can you use to your advantage? We're going to go through 4. The first tool, a website or a blog. I'd argue those terms are almost interchangeable now. So think of your blog as your online home base. It's where you gather everything related to what you do online, all your writing, all your links to where you are elsewhere online, like Facebook and Twitter, and all of your archived and older material. A blog is also very helpful for publishing full-length, shareable pieces with source documents included. This is essential if you're making serious charges or a complex argument. The first thing your opposition will say is, "Show me the proof." And it's so satisfying to say, "I already did," and provide a link to your website. There's not much time now for a lengthy how-to, but if you'd like to get started, especially without a great deal of technical knowledge, I'd recommend blogger.com or wordpress.com. Both will give you free hosted accounts where you can begin writing and publishing right away. If you can send an email from Gmail or write a document in Microsoft Word, you can use these systems. Of course, if you've got a little more technical experience, I'd recommend buying your own domain name, something like yourname.com, and web hosting, basically a corner of the internet where you can put things, and upload and install WordPress from wordpress.org. It's a free blogging platform, it's got a very easy 5-minute installation, and it's supported by a community of web developers across the world, so the features you can add onto it are constantly expanding. The second tool, Facebook. Yes, it's for far more than sharing vacation photos. Facebook is first a great distribution tool for people to share your content with their friends and family. That's why you want to make sure there's a Facebook like button embedded on every blog post. You can either copy and paste code from Facebook's developer site, which is developers.facebook.com, or do a Google search for a how-to or a plugin that will work with your blogging platform. But you can also use Facebook to organize events and protests. To do so, just create a Facebook event, include all the relevant details, and of course, an interesting image, but make sure not to violate copyright. Start by inviting people who helped you organize the event or people you're working closely with. Depending on who they are, you can also make them administrators of the event so they can manage it with you. And then start inviting people and encouraging your guests to invite their friends. Depending on your goals, you can also organize people through a Facebook fan page or a Facebook group. Your fan page is public, anyone should be able to find it, and people opt into your community by clicking like. It's a great way to centralize everyone interested in your cause to share news, events, and other updates with them. But you can also create a Facebook group, which is a little more private. Just go to facebook.com/groups to get started. You can make your Facebook group secret, so no one but everyone who's in it knows it exists or can see what's going on. Closed, so people can see the group exists, but not what's being said in it. Or public, like a fan page, so everyone can see who's in the group and what they're talking about. With a secret or closed group, you might find value in working with others and posting private updates, chatting, sharing documents, and scheduling group events. You can also use Facebook for low-cost advertising. Facebook allows you to target people by a variety of characteristics, from location to marital status to Facebook fan pages they like. So if you know the characteristics of your supporters, you can craft individual ads for them. Plus, Facebook offers cost per click advertising, which means you only pay when someone clicks your ad. In other words, you only pay every time your ad actually works. The third tool we'll talk about today is Twitter. Your most valuable use of Twitter will be to build connections with the media, bloggers, and super activists. I use the term super activist because the people on Twitter actively talking and organizing around political issues are a fraction of the population of people who are political activists already. They are well-connected, well-informed, and very passionate about politics. In other words, they're your ideal audience. If you're just starting out on Twitter, begin by following the decision makers you outlined as part of your activism strategy, the local media, the staff of organizations you want to work with, and anyone else related to the causes and candidates you're promoting. Twitter has a high learning curve though, a very high learning curve. When you first create your account, it's a lot like walking into a party where you don't know anyone. If you're like me, it's awkward at first, and you hang out by the food. But then you start one conversation and another after that, and before you know it, you're involved in an entire community of people. The example I like to use is not in politics, it's from the horse racing world. I work in politics, I live in DC, I love horse racing, but the horse racing centers of the country are far away from me. Still, I've slowly become familiar with the horse racing community on Twitter by talking with one person and then another. If I can do it with racing, when I haven't seen a live horse race in a year, you can do it in the areas you care about. And as you build relationships on Twitter, you'll be building a distribution channel for your commentary and your activism on political causes and candidates. You're creating an online network. The fourth tool isn't one tool, but a cluster of productivity tools that can help you out. You can use Hootsuite, hootsuite.com, and TweetDeck, tweetdeck.com, both free applications for your desktop computer and your smartphone to manage your social media accounts. You should also set up Google Alerts, that's just google.com/alerts, for keywords and key people related to your work. Google Alerts will send you an email, either as it happens or once a day, whichever you want, to alert you to news stories that mention the terms you've selected. At the bare minimum, set one up for your own name. In addition, if you're collaborating with other people, especially if you're collaborating remotely, you'll benefit from Google Docs, just google.com/docs. Google Docs is basically a stripped-down version of the Microsoft Office products you're familiar with, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, but it allows you to share documents and edit them from different computers. In addition, you'll find the Google Docs forms very helpful as a way to collect contact information, distribute surveys, or accomplish similar tasks with an online form. You don't need any coding knowledge. You just create a form, pass it the link, and Google collects the results automatically for you in a Google spreadsheet. All right, now you've got the right questions, you know the right tools. How can you keep from going wrong? Here are 3 common mistakes and how you can avoid them. Mistake number 1, message bombing. Fair warning, I invented this term, but I'm sure you know the concept. It's when individuals or organizations use the same pre-canned message over and over and over again in every medium possible. Instead of personalizing, customizing, or tailoring the message to their audience, they use the same message over and over and over again. The message may be great, it may be poll tested and focus group approved, but it's easy to tune out. Why? Well, imagine I poked you once in the arm, then someone else poked you in the shoulder, then someone else poked you in the knee. You'd react. But if I stood next to you and poked you in the arm over and over and over again, you'd eventually ignore me completely. It's the same way in repeating the same message over and over again. Don't do it. personalize, embrace the individual and the power of individual stories. Mistake number 2, not building relationships. The time to befriend bloggers, reporters, and other activists is not when you have the biggest story of the year. It's at least 6 months before you have the biggest story of the year. Online tools give you the power to build one-on-one relationships with people you never could have met or extensively networked with before. People who share your principles but live miles away or work in a different industry than you, or just you simply wouldn't have otherwise crossed their path. Take advantage of these opportunities online. Learn who the most influential voices are in the conversations you want to be part of, whether it's your local media, your state media, or the conservative community around you. Build relationships with those people, starting right now. Then they'll be much more likely to open your email and pass on a link to your big story when it hits. Politics is about people. Meet as many as you can, online and offline. Mistake number 3, picking a target too broad or too high. The first question I presented for building your activism strategy is to pick a very, very specific goal. To do otherwise is to set yourself up for failure, frustration, and disappointment, none of which you need to experience. No one can end a government takeover of healthcare or make an elected official listen to reason, but you can affect votes on specific bills, public positions on different policy issues, and the outcomes of elections. Make your targets narrow and specific. More important, don't be afraid to make your targets local. You can wield tremendous influence at the local and state level. How many people show up to city council meetings? Not many. How many people organize 3 of their friends to show up at city council meetings? Even fewer. You can be that person and make that difference. So do it. Now we've gone through the tools and we've gone through the questions you need to ask yourself to build your online strategy, or really any political strategy. So how do you put the questions and the tools together to create a strategy that works for you? This is where you can stretch your creativity and have a lot of fun. Another advantage of online tools is that production cost is low, little more than your time. So you can move through rapid, multiple iterations of projects and activism campaigns. So experiment, have fun. To paraphrase a left-wing community organizer, Saul Alinsky, a good tactic is one which your people, which means you, enjoy doing. So here are 2 examples just to get your brain going. Let's say you want to lobby state legislators to pass a bill. Start by going back to our first questions. Your very, very specific goal to get the undecided legislators to vote yes on the bill. The decision makers, obviously the undecided legislators and to some extent their staff. Your natural allies, the citizens and the industries affected by this bill, plus any nonprofit organizations that are interested in the bill's subject, like the National Rifle Association on a gun bill, or pro-life organizations on bills related to abortion. Now, how can you and your allies apply pressure? Here's one idea among many you could choose, depending on your time, your strengths, and the size and interests of your supporters. Let's say you have supporters of a bill post 30-second YouTube videos telling their stories to an elected official's Facebook fan page or tweet them the links on Twitter. Remember, it's generally not the intern overseeing an elected official's commentary online because all of those comments are on the record and quotable. It's a member of the communications team more likely, so already you've moved up the food chain than if you just called the office. To get back to your supporters, as you encourage them to create these videos, you could have a friendly contest among them for whose video can garner the most views, so they'll share with friends and family. Make sure, though, that you give them plenty of positive feedback. We share content online because we want to be part of a conversation, and we want connection. Reward people with that connection. You can also send conservative bloggers in the area the links to the best and most compelling videos. Tweet the links to those same videos so you can activate your own distribution channel. Then, send a press release to the local media to tell them what you're doing. You'll have given the media 3 great hooks. 1, a citizen lobbying effort on a bill. 2, an interesting application of new technology. And 3, an array of human interest stories to choose from in your supporters' videos. You've struck gold. Or, as a second example, let's say you want to publicize the bad behavior of a longtime incumbent, but for whatever reason, the media just won't bite at the story. Your very, very specific goal, to return to our questions again, to publicize instances of bad behavior and, in the long run, and if it's bad enough, to force the incumbent to resign. The decision makers, the voters in the incumbent's district and, in the long run, the incumbent. Your natural allies, political opponents of the incumbent, and citizens everywhere who will be rightfully outraged. Now, how can you apply pressure? Again, here's one idea of many. Start a blog. Build your case and post links to all the source documents. If you want to have a lot of fun, leak the story slowly. Start with one allegation, let the reaction build, then release another allegation. However, make sure everything you're saying is true and not inflammatory. Let the facts speak for themselves. Once you've lost your credibility, you'll never really get it back. If the story is really juicy, consider running advertisements on Facebook or on Google, where you can buy advertisements to display next to key search terms to send people to it. You can also use that as a way to expand your network. Then, activate your distribution network through your friends and family, through conservative bloggers in the area, and through Twitter. Ask more prominent bloggers if they'd accept a guest blog post from you on the subject, or if they'd be interested in covering the story too. If the media ignores you, it's now easy to be the media. And make sure you can build on the success of this one-time story for a long-time readership. When people come to your blog post about the story, make sure you have links for them to connect with you on Facebook, whether you want that to be friending you personally, joining a Facebook group, or becoming a fan of your Facebook page. Have a link for them to follow you on Twitter so they can see your news and updates. You can even use a Google form to have them fill out a quick form with their email addresses so they can subscribe to receiving future updates from you. Although the best way to bulk email like that is better left to a future lecture or some Google research of your own. I hope these examples have helped you see how engaging and, yes, fun online activism can be. But it also shows an important lesson. There is no right way to do activism online. There is no one template for what activism ideas you can implement. The best strategy is the one you come up with. Work through the questions we outlined at the beginning. Review your list of tools and the major benefits you gain from each. Determine which tools best help you meet your goals. Then, get going. Good luck, and perhaps more importantly, have fun.